and welcome to the Commission's press room today, 19th of September. It's our pleasure to have with us Commissioner Margrethe Vestager to discuss a state aid decision taken just now. So the Commissioner will now give a statement before we then move on to our customary Q&A session. Commissioner?
Well, thank you. The Commission has today decided that the non-taxation of certain McDonald's profit in Luxembourg is not illegal state aid. Our case concerned two tax rulings granted by Luxembourg to McDonald's in 2009. These exempt from taxation in Luxembourg all franchise profits that McDonald's receives from third parties operating McDonald's outlets in Europe, Ukraine and Russia. In the first ruling, Luxembourg falsely assumed that these profits were taxable in the US. They were not. In the second ruling, Luxembourg then removed any obligation on McDonald's to prove that the revenues were taxable in the US. This means that these profits were neither taxed in Luxembourg nor in the US. The Commission investigated under EU state aid rules whether this double non-taxation was a result of Luxembourg misapplying its national laws and the Luxembourg-US Double Taxation Treaty in favour of McDonald's EU. EU state aid rules prevents member states from giving unfair advantages to only selected companies, including illegal tax benefits. However, our in-depth investigation has shown that the reason for the double non-taxation in this case is a mismatch between Luxembourg and US tax laws and not a special treatment by Luxembourg. Therefore, we concluded that Luxembourg did not break EU state aid rules. Let me give you a few more details. Our case concerns McDonald's Europe Franchising, a Luxembourg-based subsidiary of the McDonald's Corporation. This company also has a branch in the US. McDonald's Europe Franchising owns the rights to the McDonald's brands and other related rights. It licenses these rights to third parties who operate the McDonald's fast food outlets and pay franchise fees to McDonald's Europe Franchising. In February 2009, McDonald's Europe Franchising contacted the Luxembourg tax authorities. They contacted them to ask for a tax ruling confirming that profits from its franchise rights would not be taxable in Luxembourg. McDonald's claimed that this was because these rights were attributed to its US branch. It further argued that Luxembourg-US Double Taxation Treaty exempts from taxation in Luxembourg any income that may be taxed in the US, if, of course, the company has a taxable presence there, for example, through a branch. In March 2009, the Luxembourg authorities issued a first tax ruling agreeing with McDonald's interpretation of the Double Taxation Treaty. At the same time, they requested that the company provide proof that the income of the US branch had been declared and could indeed be taxed in the US. However, 6 months later, the Luxembourg tax authorities issued a second tax ruling that removed this requirement to provide proof. In other words, Luxembourg confirmed that the income is exempt from taxation in Luxembourg as well, even though it's not taxable in the US branch. You may wonder how Luxembourg can rely on a treaty meant to avoid double taxation to endorse double non-taxation. We asked ourselves the same question, and this is why we opened the state aid investigation in December 2015. The purpose of opening such an investigation is to give member states and the company concerned, as well as other third parties, the opportunity to submit their views to the Commission's preliminary concerns, and then we carefully assess them. In the short summary of our conclusions in the case is that the Double Taxation Treaty between Luxembourg and the US explains Luxembourg's tax treatment of McDonald's Luxembourg, and that they did not misapply the treaty in a selective manner, and on that basis they didn't break EU state aid rules. The more complicated, if this wasn't complicated enough for you, the more complicated answer starts with a taxation concept called permanent establishment. A company has a permanent establishment in a specific country if this means that it carries out business and has a taxable presence there. The Luxembourg-US Double Taxation Treaty says that Luxembourg cannot tax the profit of companies if it may be taxed in the US because they have a permanent establishment there. Luxembourg can assume that the income of this permanent establishment is being taxed in the US. However, whether a permanent establishment exists in the US is assessed differently by the US and by the Luxembourg tax authorities under their respective tax codes. The US did not consider the US branch of McDonald's Europe franchising to be a permanent establishment under its tax laws, and so it did not tax the profits of this US branch. However, the Luxembourg authorities considered that the same US branch fulfilled all the conditions necessary to be a permanent establishment under Luxembourg tax law. It therefore exempted this income from Luxembourg taxation in line with the Double Taxation Treaty. The result was double non-taxation of the income by Luxembourg and the US. However, it was not due to any special treatment awarded by Luxembourg to McDonald's, which was the issue under investigation under our state aid rules. In other words, Luxembourg's tax treatment of McDonald's is not illegal under EU state aid rules. As usual, we will publish the non-confidential version of our decision as soon as we have agreed with Luxembourg on any business secrets that need to be removed from it. Of course, the fact remains that McDonald's did not pay any taxes in Luxembourg on these profits. And this is not how it should be from a tax fairness point of view. And this is why I very much welcome that the Luxembourg government is taking legislative steps to address the issue that arose in this case and avoid such situations in the future. Among other things, Luxembourg will strengthen the criteria under its tax code to define a permanent establishment. This proposal is currently with the Luxembourg Parliament. Once adopted, the new provision will require the taxpayer, in certain circumstances, to provide a certificate of residence in the other country if it wants to benefit from the tax exemption in Luxembourg. This would be proof that the other country recognizes the existence of a taxable permanent establishment of that country. This new provision is presented to the Luxembourg Parliament together with other measures to transpose the EU's, our common, anti-tax avoidance directive. Over the past few years, we have seen an international determination to deal with the issue of tax avoidance through closing loopholes in tax laws and working with the OECD's base erosion and profit shifting project. Also within our own European community, under the responsibility of my colleagues Valdis Dombrovskis and Pierre Moscovici, the Commission has pursued a coherent strategy towards fair taxation and greater transparency. And Member States have been using this momentum to reform their corporate taxation framework to make it both fairer and more efficient. Finally, just a short update on the progress made to implement the Commission's decision requiring Member States to recover unpaid taxes. And this is important because if not recovered, well, then the companies continue to benefit from illegal advantages. In May, Luxembourg completed the recovery of more than 280 million euros from Amazon, of which 21 million euros is interest. I'm also happy to confirm that Ireland has now recovered the full illegal aid from Apple. The final amount recovered is 14.3 billion euros, of which 1.2 billion euros is interest. This money will be held in an escrow account pending the outcome of the ongoing appeal of the Commission's decision before the EU courts. This means that we can proceed to closing the infringement process against Ireland for failure to implement the decision. These are important steps to tackling multinationals' tax avoidance and to meeting our ultimate goal of ensuring that not most companies, but all companies, big or small, pay their fair share of taxes in the future. Thank you.
Many